For those that listened to Rachel last week, listened to her very personal talk on anxiety, that was pretty much me standing up there. I've got a few years on Rachel, so I've dealt with it probably a little bit longer. As I mentioned before, nobody really called it that back in the day. I didn't have any sort of counseling or anything. Where it manifested to a critical mass with me was I began to have panic attacks on the highway. And it got so bad that I really couldn't even be in a vehicle when someone else was driving. The emotion, just the feeling of claustrophobia of vehicles on either side of me. If I drove in the right lane and never had to worry about passing anyone or anything, I was okay. And I never had that before, but it manifested when I was about 30. It could have been a backlash to all the commuting I was having to do in Cincinnati and some of the things that, I witnessed on the interstate. And it could have been that. But I just finally melted, I guess, under the pressure. And so I finally was placed on antidepressants, and it was like a whole new life for me. It didn't totally stop the panic attacks, but I realized that I had been clinically depressed for years, even though they told me I wasn't. But I was clinically depressed, and I've always been highly sensitive, but deaths in the family, deaths among friends, things of that kind were just crushing blows for me. And my best friend from high school died in 1990 after a 5-year battle with breast cancer. And that kind of started me on the whole spiritual issue of why did this happen to her. We were part of a group of girls that were in the same religious education class. And I never quite understood why God would do this to us. We were all devoted, and why would that happen? And she suffered. She suffered quite extensively with the cancer. And so I went through like a 15-year period of just, wandering in the wilderness, not really knowing what I was supposed to do. I went to church, I worshiped, but I couldn't understand. And then even now, I still struggle with that. But from the notes I made, this whole COVID thing, I thought I was over some of this, but I wasn't. And it kind of brought out, and I'm still not over it. It's the one reason I had not really volunteered to share my struggle, because I knew that I was not healthy, even now. But I feel like God has called me back. I feel like the biggest issue I've always had, Gary mentioned this when we were several years into our marriage, and it was a very profound statement, and it's kind of stayed with me since. Control is something that I guess is something that I need or feel that I need to have to be able to get through life. And this whole past year, there's been no control. Part of it was the pandemic. Part of it was the sewer project in Ludlow Falls, where, you never knew when they were going to show up. There would be pounding and banging and dump trucks and chaos day after day after day. We had to come here to shelter a lot, to try and have a meal somewhere. The restaurants were still generally closed, so we would have to get takeout and come here to shelter. You couldn't cook at home because it was just utter chaos. And now they walked off the job. We have a system. We're not tied into it. It's been over a month. No word from anybody. They were supposed to come and do the tie-ins. They originally projected April. It's now, July 9th. No notice from anyone. There's no notice at the post office. No information coming out at all. So that's driving me insane. I've been having all kinds of struggles trying to get the cat food I need through FedEx and through UPS. The companies are just not keeping up with the orders, and so that's producing a lot of stress. I have to keep going to the store to get the same things I've already paid for online, but that are waiting, that are stuck 8 days in transit. And for anyone that knows me, I'm a cat rescuer. I have a colony of kitties in Ludlow Falls. I'm not officially certified, but I have been doing it a long time. And this shirt is from a place that rescues foxes. So animals mean an awful lot to me. And they're my kids. And so, there's that stress. I've been working on my website because for me, that's another thing. I'm powerfully motivated because I think it's a spiritual calling to do my artwork. So when we were shut down, I should have been organizing closets and cleaning and doing all these things that people were doing, and I didn't really do that. I worked in my studio, and I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked and I worked, and I overworked myself, and I became kind of exhausted. But I thought, well, okay, God is giving me this time to actually make progress. Well, I think I ended up making no progress on what I was working on. Although I made some progress. But finally I thought, it's too much. I've got to calm down. I tried reading the Bible, and I did really well at that for several months, but it wore me out. I was reading Kings and Chronicles, and after a while, all the Ahazes and the different kings, I was like, I can't remember everybody. It's good to know it, or to at least read it, but I can't remember everyone. I can't remember the chronologies. This is frustrating. Will I ever get to the point where I can really know this material? And so then I finally thought, well, let me take a break from that. Maybe it's just too much of that. And so for me, it's been hard finding a happy medium between obsessive, trying to devote myself to my artwork or to the Bible or to all sorts of things. We got tired of watching the same television shows over and over again. We did some Bible project. We did some things like that, and we would get really worn out. We watched The Chosen, which was really moving, and we liked that. And then the weather would not cooperate too much between last year and this year. It's just been, this year's been 3 days of nice weather and 4 days of rain. It's been going on. So you get the lawn mowed, and then you can't do anything for 4 days. And then the rain causes the grass to grow again. Then you have to go back and do the same thing you did before. And so it's just between all the things, I feel like I'm just on a treadmill, just never getting from point A to point B. So right now I just feel, and still feel, kind of overwhelmed. I'm trying to figure that God's on his timetable, because the men were supposed to come and take the hedge down and didn't. I went ahead and did it. I didn't take it all the way to the ground. I figured they can handle that. They're getting paid. I'm not to do this. But I thought I would take the refuse from the hedge then and use that in the tubs, which I'm hoping to use for a future vegetable garden. And Dan knows about the tubs. He's been bringing me these galvanized raised beds so that I can make planters next year. But so I'm trying to make do with all these delays. Oh, and then the other thing is I've got a company coming who's supposed to be working on the soffit, and the front gutter, and I haven't heard from them now in, I don't know, a month. So it's like, and I know when they finally come to do the work, they'll be backing up to the people who come to finally do the tie-in to the house. So we'll have chaos for I don't know how long, and machinery, and it'll all come together at once, and that's what I've been trying to avoid. So I'm stressed out by all this. And then every time you try to drive anywhere, they've got construction going, and you have to detour. I go up to these two little Catholic churches that I like up in the country. One is in Bradford and one is in Covington. I go there Saturday evenings, and we come here on Sunday mornings. And the whole time I've been trying to go there, it had Rangeline Road torn up at 6 different points along the way. So then you detour here and you detour there. And, I'm getting pretty good with, what would that be? I guess Western Miami County. But it's just crazy. So I get bummed by all the frustrations. But this was really about control. And I wanted to mention that the whole theme of this was about control. Getting me to understand I don't have control, and that God is in charge of everything is what I need to keep working on. And I'm afraid that may be a lifelong struggle for me. I'm somebody that I like to plan ahead. We like to I like to know things are coming. Not everything, but I like to know a little bit about, I've got this in place and that in place so that when something happens, we're sort of organized. But it never seems to work that way. And Gary's the other kind of person. He's spontaneous and just goes with it, and he has no problems. It all works out well.
Like combustion, you mean?
Didn't that blow up?
But, like he'll tell you that he never would study for any tests or anything.
No.
He'd study the morning of for his schoolwork. Still do well, so.
Usually the hour before.
So we're a little different that way. I'm more obsessive compulsive, but anyway, I just pray for the strength to let God handle things. If that helps anyone in their struggles, I hope so. I did bring this little book that I purchased. It was helping for a while, Igniting Faith in 40 Days, and it's supposed to help train your mind to put off the negative thoughts and using your faith to develop your positive thoughts and understanding of God's ways. And I'm going to keep doing it because I think it's the kind of thing that you have to keep doing cumulatively. It did help initially, but when I first read it, there are some mantras in there and declarations that you make. And one of them was, I am 100% loved by God. And I cried because I thought, wow, I didn't feel loved, but that was important, and I was, kind of glad to see that. And so I thought, wow, I am really messed up right now. I need to get some vitamin D and some things like that. But it really kind of brought it home to me that I needed to do some stuff. And it could be that maybe I don't love myself. Maybe that's where it all originates. I don't know. So I keep telling Gary I do need therapy. And he says, well, yeah, you do.
Thanks.
If you want to get some,
I'm agreeing with you.
if you want to get some, I mean, it is partially paid for by Medicare.
Father Hussey said I should never disagree with you that much.
So, but that, sometimes you realize, oh wow, I didn't realize how far off the norm I was. So a lot of Rachel's talk about this was, I thought, wow, someone else with nearly the same problems. And Rachel is more, I feel like she's much more scripturally literal and more spiritually sound probably than I am. And even she still struggles with it. So it's just something. I watched some of these YouTube things that tell you stuff about yourself and decided I'm a highly sensitive person according to what they were saying. An HSP.
Is that true, Gary?
Yes. She is a highly sensitive person. There's little doubt. I think there may be even a few more clinical words that could describe it maybe more scientifically, but yeah.
Are you a LSP? Low sensitivity person?
No, he's actually high sensitive too. He's just not.
I'm not as demonstrative, maybe, most of the time.
I don't know that he has that desire to control, perhaps as much as I do. He's more live and let live. I mean, I know this is.
Well, I'm kind of. I mean, most of the things that Nancy tries to control, the only way she can ever control them is by letting go, not by holding on. I've been through quite a bit in my life, and the whole pandemic thing for me has been a different experience than for Nancy. In many ways, I felt like before the pandemic, and by some people's standards, especially my pastor, who runs around like a whirling dervish, or it seems that way to me. You really do a lot. Me, I came from a background where, I was in some ways I would say I was the invisible man. And there was a period of my life after I matured and what have you, that I went through this, for lack of a better word, I'll say kind of like a temporary Dan phase of doing just tons of stuff, and then I kind of normalized and what have you. But there's still a part of me that, and this is where her and I kind of differed. You know, the pandemic. I mean, not totally different, but it didn't bother me as hard to be there at home all the time. I'm not really a big crowd person. I'm not a person that needs to. Well, like I'll give you an example with my brother Sam, who's gone, of course. But I remember one day talking to him, and he said, "You know, you're right." He said, "I feel the same way," because I told him, I said, "You know, I never saw Sam all that much, and he was only 8 miles away." You know, but whenever we got together, it was like we had never been apart. And that's just the way it was. And Sam, in many ways, looked out for me a lot when I was younger, because I had quite a few problems, and I was also prone to doing some unusual things, like picking a teacher up once and moving them out of my way.
Tons of anger issues.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it anger. Well, anybody else would, but I wouldn't. It was more but I don't know. It wasn't anger. I never used physical anger, you know. Except to me, I literally did pick them up and move them. I didn't hit them, you know. I didn't threaten them, you know. But it's another thing about control, you know. And I don't know. They're sometimes pre-pandemic compared to you, you know, I'm kind of like a statue. But for me, it was just like running everywhere. You know, it's just. You know, it's just like chaos. You know, to me, I'm better with seclusion. You know, than Nancy is. So, yeah.
Well, another issue is I don't have any of my actual immediate family in the area. There's nobody here. The in-laws are here, and I do see them as family. But my surviving sister lives in Kansas City, Missouri. Her son, my nephew, is in Massachusetts. My other, her daughter, my niece, is in Kansas City, Missouri. My brother is estranged from the family. We haven't seen or spoken to him in I don't know how long. And his kids I barely know. And my older sister died in 2012, and her son and husband are the only two left from that family, and they live in Texas. And the son is not in communication with us, so there's like nobody. And family was always deeply important to me, and so I don't have that to fall back on. And I think it's really, really cool that, you know, the Lucases and the Supingers and the Rosses and everybody are still in touch as cousins, and everybody still socializes, and there's a strong element of family, community. It's really cool. And but yeah, I miss that. And it was hard for me. I missed the kids, and you know, just missed having some interaction with people. We both could take a lot more seclusion than many people could. So for us, staying at home was probably not nearly as difficult as some. And we were lucky. We had retirement incomes. We didn't lose jobs.
Yeah, we were blessed.
We weren't trying to raise children, and we didn't have parents that were alive in years.
400 cats,
but
give or take 100.
Yeah, my parents were gone. I didn't have that worry of them in a nursing home contracting the disease. So it was more just about protecting ourselves, which, you know, we could do pretty easily. And so.
Well, there were two things that affected me, you know. And I'm not, the fact that one is a little superfluous, but still. And the other, not superfluous at all, was the fact that, you know, we like to go out to restaurants, you know, and going out and, you know, to a place and getting takeout and sitting in a parking lot and eating soggy French fries is not what we really see as a high point in our life.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of, you know, bothered me. But what also bothered me, too, I've never been consistently a really highly social person, but I'll have to say that I've come to accept Troyview as my family too. And I don't know everyone all that well, but I've been able to socialize with more than a few, and I really did miss some of the people, that way. My brother, my younger brother, Dave, of course, he and I, we talk on the radio, and so I've kept communications with him and told him how, Cincinnati Reds are going down the toilet, okay? Well, that's another...
It's just a yearly conversation.
Yeah, that's the same same conversation. So anyhow, it's just kind of I really do feel like part of a family here at Troyview in particular, but also a family, that is with Jesus.
Yeah, the family of Jesus. Well, like I said, I'm Catholic, but we also belong here, and I think the great treasure that I've found is being here, and the Bible studies, the emphasis on Scripture has really made the Catholic Church come alive for me, because it is still Bible-based, but they don't push knowledge or literacy of the Bible very much in the Catholic Church. It's more about, the emphasis, of course, is on communion, and that's where everything is centered, is on the sacrifice of the Mass, and so that part I understood, but the history behind everything, it's like it's opened up. I don't know. I can go to Mass now, and it's like, oh, yeah, okay, now I kind of get this, and so it's really opened a lot up, but I'm such a timid person that every time I read anything, it makes me go, oh, and I have to rethink. Well, like the other day I read something about, I think it was out of Revelation, they were talking about the building of the New Jerusalem, and it sort of hit me like, oh, are we entitled to be part of that? Because, we're Gentiles, and this was written from a Jewish perspective. But yeah, Jesus made his message, and his mission open to everyone after a certain point. So, I'm still dealing with a lot of that, and but it's been really helpful to have a lot of what you do here, which is the training, the talking about the Bible, talking about, just really making it accessible to people in the pews or in the chairs, which are much more comfortable than the pews in the Catholic Church. But anyway, bringing it down to the level so that the people in the congregation can kind of understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think Elaine and Jim in particular have really learned a lot from them.
Yeah.
And others too,
Mm-hmm.
but, especially Elaine and Jim. And I've also learned some stuff from Tink too.
Well, I think what stays with me is that Chris Lucas was saying that, this was a while back, she said, God doesn't want to lose any soul. He doesn't want to lose anyone. The intention is for everybody to be with him. But of course, some people turn away and all of that. But the Catholic Church uses the Book of Wisdom, and there was a section in there about God originally making it so that all living things would be part of his being. And then, of course, that was kind of lost with everything that happened. And but that was the original intention. So then I thought, well, it must pain God, it must pain Jesus too, to have people, just say, I'm not interested. I don't care.
Thank you for sharing. Any final thoughts on the past year and a half or loneliness? Any encouragement you want to give the congregation?
just keep doing what you're doing, guys. And I don't know, just remember that you never know what's going on with anybody in the congregation. There could be people that are widowed, people that are alone, people that are visitors who maybe have never come in before. If you even just say, "Hi, how are you?" It doesn't have to be an overload. I don't like the churches where they're, "Hi, how are you doing?" Like that. But just, "Hi, glad you came to see us." Or just a little bit of reaching out. That can mean a lot. So
I want to say too that just when it comes to people, each and every individual, you never really know their true whole story, and you need to realize that a lot of times. And once you accept the fact that you don't know everybody's complete story, you don't know what they've been through, you don't know what helped shape them the way they are, that should help you to be able to be less judgmental. Because you just figured, well, somebody, if somebody says something or does something that you don't understand, and you think maybe boy, I didn't really like that. Just remember, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know how many miles and how many roads they had to travel on.
Yeah, and I really want to accept people as they are now. I said to Jim one time, I said, I don't want to know what's in somebody's background, the failures they've had, or the struggles maybe, because, that can just at least help you understand. But if I like that person the way they are now, then I don't really need to know what sins they may have committed. We're all sinners. But, it's like you just pick yourself up and go forward, because that's what Jesus wants.
Thank you. See ya.
Bye.